Hey, what's up, David and Chas? This is August from Half Moon Bay. I just wanted to call in with feedback, just offer my 2 cents on the last episode of The Grit. You guys mentioned very kind of briefly we're considering about possibly not discussing the WSL anymore and its business model or lack thereof. And I just wanted to offer my 2 cents and state, I actually hope you guys do continue talking about the WSL and keep offering some unique insights and commentary. I feel like with the system you guys have set up, supported by listeners and not corporate sponsorships, you guys are able to offer a perspective that no other surf media outlet can provide right now. And I think, you guys are hilarious and two pretty smart dudes. And it offers, I think, a lot of surf fans a good laugh and some good insight into the WSL and kind of what they're thinking. So I understand why you guys don't want to keep beating the dead horse for the WSL, but I think some listeners would appreciate that perspective still. Okay. Thanks for taking my call and keep up the good work. Cheers.
Yes, I got you.
Woohoo!
You got the old school merch shirt.
Yeah. You like bringing back the decades old, more fun than cocaine, Acapulco, and Fleetwood Mac.
I've got it. I own the shirt.
A classic of the merch genre.
This could be a barrel or not. Cutoffs.
Oh, such a barrel, especially the Valpocalypse. Now I wear the original OG Beach Grit. I wear. I'm a big fan.
That's true. I guess we have already discussed that. I was trying to convince Lauren to let me wear cutoff to the gym, and she said only douches at the gym wear cutoffs because they're trying to show off.
I'm a douche at the gym, not at the gym.
Exactly. I don't know if that exists outside of the gym. Is it okay outside of the gym, not okay inside the gym?
I think it is, but I think you gotta run this one by Lauren. I think she's got a good sense of this. And so, it's probably totally true. Wearing cutoffs at the gym is not cool.
I'm wondering, is it okay to record via Zoom this podcast without a shirt on?
I mean, I totally think it would be epic.
I think so too. It's going to be like 95 degrees today.
Is it? It's so chilly down here. I'm missing the summer.
Well, you live in a perfect climate little enclave.
Oh yeah, you're slightly inland. You're out of Huntington Beach now, the hotbed of anti-vaccination movements.
Dude, did you see that in the news? There's a restaurant that won't allow you to dine if you've been vaccinated.
Just posted it on Beach Grit. Basilico's.
Did you really?
Yep, Basilico's in Huntington Beach.
I looked them up on Yelp and hold on, I got to text something real quick.
About your dinner date to Basilico's tonight?
Exactly. I looked them up on Yelp. And at first, when I saw that news story, I thought this is just a publicity stunt, which is kind of savvy. And they're going to get more advertising out of this than they would ever be able to pay for on their own. But then I looked them up on Yelp, and they've actually instituted this policy months ago. And there was people leaving Yelp reviews months ago saying, I tried to walk in with a mask and they were irate. They berated me and questioned all of my ideals and values and kicked me out of their restaurant.
Yep. It was, I think they put up a billboard in Huntington Beach that said, leave the mask and take the cannoli or something.
That's right.
Yep. And then that was round one. And now round two, there's a big sign on the door that says, I can't remember the exact copy, but it's like, we're fighting for freedom here. Only unvaccinated people inside.
And no masks allowed.
No masks.
The most poignant and funny Yelp reviews that I saw said, avoid this place like the plague.
That's really good. That's
super good.
Yeah, no matter what you believe, where you fall on the spectrum, that is funny.
It's very funny. Okay, so man, the listener line is live. Andrew from Half Moon Bay opened our show today, and his feedback was basically that he values our WSL commentary because we are the only surf media outlet not fiscally tied or to the WSL or advertisers that are involved with the WSL. we don't need WSL's access to client or to athletes and all that sort of stuff. So he said, despite our misgivings or our questioning if we're beating a dead horse, he loves it. What are your thoughts?
I was totally thankful to hear that. I mean, at the end of the day, we're here for entertainment, right? Our primary job is to entertain. And the World Surf League, like it or hate it, is still entertaining. So discussing it is, I mean, the whole point of it is entertaining, right? And it provides fodder and it provides something to talk about. And so, yes, I agree that, I mean, what we're even thinking, like we would have stopped talking about it. We'll never stop talking about the WSL or what's in the news, right?
Correct. I think when we had that moment of reflection, it was more because the WSL has actually not even been newsworthy.
Yeah. I mean, coming out of the Olympics, I feel oddly it's even less newsworthy. I feel, I mean, we'll get into the Olympics talk here, but I don't see how they get any kind of bounce from the Olympics and how they sustain that. I mean, I guess, again, I suppose this should be talked about later, but you know, they have two good events coming up, right? They have Chopu and Bara, where let's assume Bara fires at some level, and let's assume Chopu does what it does. So they'll be way more inspiring viewing than the Olympics. And so maybe you have some surf curious come over, but I don't see how there's any Olympic bounce, to be honest, from this. I think skateboarding will get an Olympic bounce. I don't think surfing will get an Olympic bounce.
I think Carissa Moore's profile gets elevated. Idolo, Kanoa, all of them, maybe they gained a few 100,000 followers each on Instagram, and then they start advertising the Mexico event. So then there will be a little a spillover that way.
I think, but pretty minor, all things considered.
Minor. Yeah.
I think it was I mean, how much Olympic surfing did you watch? Not to get right into it here.
A grand total of 2 hours, I would say.
Okay, I watched a grand total of 15 minutes, maybe. It was so hard to find for me. I was shopping around, like buying every single Fubo TV and whatever, and it was not streaming on any of those, right? Like you had to basically stream it on your phone on the NBC app, which was tied to my cable, which was annoying to try to figure out what the path, blah, 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 blah. It was a real hassle. Like the barrier to watch it was so high, where skateboarding was on, and of course, you know, with surfing, they have a window, so it's different, but skateboarding was on at 3:30 p.m. on USA, right? And so I don't have USA, but I knew, okay, I just have to go to, you know, restaurant and ask them to flip the TV over to USA and I can watch it. You couldn't have done that with surfing. It was not on any of their channels.
Well, I think it was a day or two after it was live, because somebody sent me, the reason why they sent it was that Kelly Slater was actually doing the live commentary.
Was he though?
I don't think he was.
No, that was the funny thing, is somebody sent me that clip, or maybe it was the same person, where his name kept showing up. It was Joe Turpel and Kelly Slater doing the commentary. And I never heard Kelly's voice ever.
Yeah.
In the clips that were sent.
I agree. I never heard it. And they said that they didn't hear Kelly's name either, or Kelly's voice throughout, but it kept on the bottom of the screen. It showed who the commentators were, and it said Joe Turpel and Kelly Slater, just Kelly never chimed in. So, but they were apparently running a not live stream.
But who wants to
portions?
Who wants to see it not live though? I mean, that's the whole point.
For the brand new audience who doesn't know what surfing is, if they can just show them Idolo's crazy backside air, that's exciting, you know, and so that draws them in.
I guess if they clipped that down to a package that was like 30 minutes and watchable, because watching it live, I mean, my goodness gracious, like good on Japan for giving it a go, and good on the Typhoon for making the water a toilet. But it looked like so unfun. Like I just pictured myself being out there and completely lost. Like, what would you even paddle for?
I mean, everything and anything. Just give yourself 40 opportunities. We'll come back to the WSL. Yeah. I wanted to continue with August's listener line call and the WSL. I told you last week I got backlash from a WSL employee about me stating publicly that their formats are regressive. This employee was not speaking for the WSL. They were presumably stating their own opinion, not the WSL's opinion, but they were really defensive against my claim that the WSL was regressive. And this person argued that surfing on the CT gets better every year. And that is, by definition, progress. What are your thoughts? Is it progressive or is it regressive?
No, I think the format is regressive. If the surfing is getting better, which I think is totally arguable that it is plateaued, I would argue that the surfing has been at the same level since Idolo and Gabe and Philippe have really come into their own, right? They've pushed the level of progression in spite of the format, not because of the format. Right. Nobody else is progressing, like Julian, Kolohe, John, due injury or whatnot. There hasn't been inspiring performances across the board. And again, I would argue that Idolo and Gabe in particular are being awesome in spite of the format. I don't know how you look at that format and think it is bringing out the best in the surfers or the best surfing. Like, it demands safety surfing way more than it should,
totally,
or rewards safety surfing way more than it should. And very rarely is somebody putting it, or does somebody have to put it all on the line to get the score, which there could be a format easily where that's what you reward, right? It's guys going through. And I mean, again, I typically really dislike the skate format. The street league format has been boring, and maybe I was just had a horse in the race in the Olympics and so was more interested in it. But the big trick part where you get, I think, 5 attempts to land one trick, right? Or 5 attempts, to land a trick. And I think they drop your low and your high. And so you really are rewarded for going big, right? Like, if you put down, build a house, as they say, there's no building a house, right? You have to be hitting your hammer. And of course you can hit a safety trick once you hit a hammer, but you've got to hit a hammer, where surfing doesn't have anything like that.
Well, the CT doesn't have it.
CT doesn't, exactly. Yeah. Like, and so to call their format progressive to me is wildly out of touch with the safety surfing that we get 90% of the time.
I think the argument or the point that you made, and maybe that the WSL staffer was touching on, was, Idolo, Gabe get better at surfing every year, but the format isn't what's getting them better at surfing. And I would argue explicitly the format is regressing their surfing. Nothing eclipses Owen Wright's 4 10-point rides at Cloudbreak in 2015, 6 years ago, or what Felipe did at Snapper that exact same year. Felipe's double alley-oops at J-Bay, whatever year that was. And why we haven't seen performances that eclipse that, and it's because we're running in beach breaks and wave pools. And I know that the WSL could argue, it's a COVID season, so we had to run a bunch of beach breaks in Australia. Well, they put Steamer Lane on the schedule before this. And the reason that was made was arguably a bureaucratic decision. We needed an event in California because that's what attracts the most sponsor dollars or whatever. So we're not going to see performances at Steamer Lane that eclipse anything. And by the way, the best set wave at lowers in finals day won't come near the scoring potential of Cloudbreak or Pipeline. So yes, surfers themselves are getting better every year, but the format and the venues designed and provided by the WSL are not adequate for these world-class athletes. Case in point, Jack Robinson is sitting 26th in the world right now.
Yep. I mean,
and that's a travesty.
And that is by no fault of he's not a very savvy competitor, but he has not been given really a wave to actually surf this whole year.
No.
Yeah. And a couple days early on, but that was it.
He's focused, by the way, all of his talents on riding the best, gnarliest waves in the world and getting better at that than not only anybody in the lineup, but anybody in the world. He can go toe-to-toe with Kelly Slater, John, Gabe, Idolo in the best waves in the world. And that is what progresses surfing. That is exciting. That will gain the WSL more viewers than running it a million mediocre beach breaks around the world. You know what I mean? So that is the counter argument. Sure, surfing has gotten better year and year, but that's because Gabe is just getting better at surfing. You're not doing him any favors.
Totally. And Idolo. I mean, I think those two.
Exactly.
And it's really nobody beyond those two. Nobody's shined this year, I don't think, beyond those two, right? Like there's been some fine.
Thank God. Yeah, I agree with you. Thank God that they're doing what they're doing because they've saved the Olympics.
Yeah.
Man,
without Idolo or Gabe in there, it would have been it was already a slog fest, but it would have been really even worse somehow, magically.
So, by the way, I did invite this WSL staffer to have this debate on air because obviously I have counterpoints, but it's impossible to do through text message. They declined the invitation and stated that, quote, the grit and the grit adjacent audiences are demonstrably anti-WSL and this person would not stand a chance at saying anything that our listeners would want to hear. And
it's not true. That is not true. David Lee, you know that's not true.
Are you anti-WSL?
No, like that's not, I think that like our wonderful first listener said, like, I think we're a place that doesn't have, we're not financially invested in them, or we're not directly tied. So we can say what we want. And I do think that we praise it when it's good. And I think our listeners and people who read Beach Grit and all of it, they're not just haters for the sake of hating. Like they're frustrated with this product and various parts about this product, but also love parts of the product, right? Like,
yeah.
And I think that everybody has a fairly nuanced take, and to call them all demonstrably anti is to really be missing the point.
Totally. I think, firstly, it's totally unwoke to think that any group of people that is, by the way, numbers in the tens of thousands, if not 100,000s, any group of people that size, they all feel the same way. They all think the exact same way. I mean, isn't that generalizing groups of people, and isn't that cancelable? That's just wrong-headed to think that way. But that's beside the point. I think it's a total misread of the WSL's most ardent and truthful, by the way, clientele, which is just bad business. And so the fact that you and I both have followed professional surfing, studied it, centered our personal and professional lives around it for 25 years, 30 years, I think that actually means something. And I think that if we're not anti, but if we have become anti, then there's probably a reason why we're anti. If we've studied it for 3 decades, we have very strong feelings and we're tied to it, and then we developed anti feelings, you might want to investigate that.
I mean, did you see the recent Forbes piece? I think it came out yesterday about Dirk Ziff and stuff. Oh,
no.
It's a banger. Yeah. Beach Grit gets a shout out in there. But yeah, I mean, they kind of dig deep into the reclusive billionaire who owns it and sort of how he's shaped the WSL and how it's become weird, right? Like Dirk Ziff is a weirdo. Let's be honest. He's a weird billionaire who owns this thing, and this thing, Elo's weird. Everything's weird, and it's taken the shape of weirdness.
I'm not sure that Dirk is weird. I don't know anything about him, and I don't know that he's influencing the direction of the WSL. I think he put people in place and he said, make it profitable, grow the business.
I think as a billionaire, he's weird. I would argue that any billionaire is weird, and not necessarily weird in a bad way, just odd. And I think his reclusiveness, I think he's properly a strange person, right? When you're a billionaire, you have yes men, you have none of them live a normal life. And so he gets to be sort of in a bubble of bizarrety and think what he wants to think about this pro surfing thing that the people actually love, right? I mean, talk about not being one of the people. He has no clue, but has then put people in there like Elo who have equally no clue. And now this thing is limping along. And again, who knows what it's going to become? But it's year over year, they're doing things that are super lame. Like Ultimate Surfer.
Totally.
I mean, I love Ultimate Surfer, and I can't wait for our watch party. But I don't love it for the reasons they want me to love it for.
Yeah, kind of addressing the are we anti-WSL thing. I am not anti-WSL. I'm anti the current direction of the WSL. And 2 and 3 years ago, when there were these harbingers, it was kind of like, I'm calling out that iceberg ahead because it's not actually going to help the WSL get to their goal. If their goal is to grow the audience and make the business profitable, running in wave pools is not going to do that. So, and by the way, buying the wave pool is kind of an adjacent business. And so now you're making choices about which stops to put on the schedule because of this adjacent business decision. Okay, I'm going to call that out as well. You know, all of these things along the way that are just the filter that they're running through is more designed at where can we collect profits along the way rather than how do we get the best surfers in the best waves in the world, which will then, of course, bring on more audience and bring on more profit. So us calling that out, we're anti those things, but professional surfing as a whole, and even the WSL as a organizing body, I'm not anti against. It's just the current direction that I'm anti.
Do you think, I mean, I wonder in the sort of silo behind the wall of positive noise, like they have a bunch of people telling them wave pool is sick. People love that event. It's really good. Everybody loves it. It's like perfect. People love it. That's what they want, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, do you think they're getting a whole nother set of data?
No.
You think they know? They don't.
I think
they think it's sick. I think they think Kelly's pool is the best. And I think they think that they just need to run it more times in order to get people used to it. And that I think they really have drank the Kool-Aid, to use a well-worn metaphor, cliche.
I think that they felt that way on the Future Classic. You know, like they did an exhibition event. People brought some kind of concern and they said, oh, well, we need to just put it on tour and get more surfers in it and get people adjust. The audience will get used to it, everything you just said. But now after running it, multiple exhibition events, longboard event, and a bunch of CT, 3 or 4 years now on the CT, that the evidence, the data is in, and the data speaks for itself. And it's an overwhelming consensus of negative feedback.
You'd think, but that's what I'm talking about when you have a reclusive billionaire. I mean, the fact that Forbes kept calling him a reclusive billionaire, is a funny description and not one that I typically think of when I think of Dirk Ziff, but it's Forbes knows better than me. They're the billionaire magazine.
Who wrote it?
It's their I don't know, one of their billionaire covers. They're billionaire journalists.
Did they get interviews with anybody?
Yeah. They have interviews with Elo. It's like over 1,000-word piece. And Beach Grit gets mentioned as not everyone in surfing is happy with the direction. Notably, I think it's like the website that calls itself Beach Grit or something like that, who regularly runs headlines like, quote, if you were drowning and co-water person of the year Dirk Ziff was in the water, would you feel safe? So
missed that headline.
Yep, it was a good one. I mean, that was one of mine.
Hits the nail on the head for sure.
Yeah, he's a co-water person of the year, man. But I wouldn't feel safe with a co-water person of the year on the water.
I'm going to co-water.
Do you remember? That's
co-water person.
He was co-water person of the year. Yeah.
Got it. I'm going to open this conversation up on the message boards on surfsplendorpodcast.com because I'm sure that I am overlooking counter arguments, and you and I get in our own echo chamber and just keep ramping each other up. So I'm sure that there are counter arguments to everything that we said, but I would love to hear listener feedback and perspective on A, is the WSL format regressive? And then B, are you as a listener anti-WSL? If you are, why are you? If you aren't, if you're pro, great. Tell us why you are. And so it's a much bigger conversation than just you and I would love to get listener feedback. So it'll be going on the forums later today.
Beautiful. I can't wait to get in there myself and see, because I mean, it's exactly right. Like, I don't want to be behind the wall of negative noise. Like, any kind of one position that you think, or that I've ever felt like, I'm staking my claim here and blah, 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 blah. And refusing to listen to other sides is silly. And so I'm happy for this forum to go actually get in and see what's out there.
Well, you take your stance very impassionedly, and so people feel like you're committed. But all they have to do is listen to one segment of Barrel or Not, and you'll flip flop back and forth. You're easily malleable.
Yeah, just give me a good argument.
Exactly. The other news story was that the WSL sent out a newsletter congratulating the Olympic athletes, the medalists, one of whom was their very own 4-time world champion, Carissa Moore, who had won the gold in women's surfing. And the WSL, in the opening line of their newsletter, wrote her name in bold as Carissa Marks rather than Carissa Moore. Was this a simple and forgivable typo, Chaz, or what do you make of it?
No, I mean, are you kidding me? Like, this is one in a long line of World Surf League blunders that are straight up embarrassing. Like, where you said it once and you've said it twice, that oftentimes it seems like Eric Logan is the only employee. He's doing everything. He's doing the copywriting. He first writes it, he then copyrights it, he then releases it. Like, if you can't catch, nobody would do that. Like, I've never seen the NFL butcher Tom Brady's name, or like, it's not like they butchered. It would have even been embarrassing had they gotten,
Amaro Tsuzuki.
Sure, wrong. Anyone wrong. It would have been embarrassing. But to get, like, arguably, not even arguably, inarguably, the face of professional surfing moving forward, at least as it relates to the United States, the biggest market, right? Like, Carissa Moore is the darling, is the star. And I mean, it'd be like the NBA releasing something about Michael Jordash, or like, it is their biggest star. And it just shows a real lack of attention to any kind of detail. And if they're missing details that huge, then they're missing everything, right? I don't know how they don't look at themselves and think, oh, shoot, on this one, like, everybody has a point. We are blowing it. We are honestly missing things left and right. Like, I don't know how you forgive yourself. They'll kick it to some intern and say, well, this guy was up all night, it was late, blah, 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 blah. We had, both names in there, and there's no excuse, zero excuse.
Completely couldn't agree more. It's indicative of a much bigger issue that we've been touching on repeatedly, and is just validated through this. The big problem for me here is this is a real springboard opportunity. All of the efforts to grow the sport and to gain more market share and all of that stuff, this is where all the preparation meets an opportunity. And so the WSL has an opportunity to springboard off of the Olympics with, by the way, their 4-time world champ. She just won gold. And so boom, springboard that into mainstream. And she's going to be interviewed on every media outlet around the world. You are her backer. You are her biggest proponent. How do you get her name wrong? How do you get her name wrong? I mean, and you're right. Whether if it's farmed out to an intern, that's wrong. And you should be triple, quadruple checking the intern. And if somebody important is doing it, that's wrong too,
And it truly is indicative, though. I think it's not a standalone. Clearly they make blunders all the time, but this is not a standalone, like, okay, come on, give us grace. You make typos all the time too in Beach Grit or something like that. No,
not the same thing.
It's not the same thing. And organizationally, I mean, that's the thing. I wasn't paying as close attention, but was Carissa like on all the major news outlets and stuff like that?
She's still doing it. She's still doing it.
Okay, she's still doing the rounds. So she's got good PR people.
Oh yeah.
Kicking her out there. Okay. I mean, that's what the WSL should have instantly transformed into basically a PR house once she won and Idolo won, and gotten them both as much press coverage gotten them anything they could press wise. And maybe they did do that.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, that one should have been their only job if you want to grow it.
If they did do that, let's hope that her name was spelled accurately in their press package. Their media kit.
Amazing. How great would it have been if Carissa would have shown up to the Today Show, and we have 4-time world champ Carissa Marks here. Carissa Marks, great job. Yeah.
And by the way,
it's a shocker.
Talking about this is not an isolated incident. Remember in the Surf Ranch Pro and 2019, Kanoa, They printed his name across his shoulders on the back of his jersey, Agarshi.
Yeah.
And that wasn't just a newsletter that went out. That had to go to print.
He had to wear it. He had to sit there
it.
and wear his Igarshi uniform. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's the little things, WSL. Little things. Get them right.
Is this the commentary that August from Half Moon Bay is craving?
Yes.
I think
maybe.
so too. I think so too. All right, we'll keep it coming.
Yeah.
Although we'll have less and less direct contact from the WSL to draw from.
It's true. We'll really have to be, I feel olive branches. I'm going to keep throwing olive branches over there and say, come on, let's have the debate. Let's have the talk.
To be perfectly honest, a lot of the insights that I get come from staffers who are feeling the exact same way that you and I feel. So it's under the guise of, hey, don't publish this or don't talk about my name, but just FYI, here's the numbers of the viewership or whatever it is.
Yep.
So
helpful.
Yeah, so that's helpful. Keep it coming. Chime in on the forums too, on the website. I got more feedback on a couple of topics from last week. One of them was we were talking about the PSA where you put your surfboard on the roof upside down and backwards. A number of people made arguments against that, arguing that you should be putting it upside down, nose forward.
No.
They made some wannabe pseudo-scientific claim about
aerodynamic stuff.
Yeah, about like downforce of the wind or whatever. I didn't believe any of it, but Surf Ads made the most compelling counter argument. Surf Ads said, quote, boards should only go on the roof if you're traveling long distances or have a hired car on a surf trip. You should already own a car that fits your boards inside of it. Nothing screams Val like rocking up to the beach for a 1-hour session with your board in a travel bag on the roof of your sedan. And if your wife and child don't spend every car ride to the beach with their faces jammed into the passenger window by the 3 boards that you've expertly positioned betwixt folded down seats, then you're obviously not committed to this life of ours.
Amen and amen. And it was funny when we were talking about it last week passionately, I was trying to think of the last time that I actually had strapped a board to the roof, and it was in Mexico, and it was on a rental car, and it was a big, huge, way too big coffin. And it was because the entire interior of the car was filled with luggage and family, where I even tried, I was going to ditch the bag and just slide the boards in and literally fly the boards home without a bag. I was trying to think of every way I could not to strap that thing to the roof until I finally gave up and strapped it to the roof. But yes, Surf Ads is exactly right. You do not, that there used to be a little back when mini internet games were fun to play. Did you ever get that one where there was like 4 urinals, a picture of 4 urinals, and it was the little quiz? So yeah, they have like a guy at the far end, which urinal you're supposed to do, one farthest away. It's all like getting yourself the furthest away you can from any other person at the urinal. And then the last one, I think there was 5 urinals, and they had 2 people here, 2 people here, and 1 empty one in the middle. Where are you supposed to, which urinal are you supposed to use? You click on the middle one, wrong answer. You're supposed to leave, which is the point. You just don't. How are you supposed to put your board? How are you supposed to strap your boards to the roof of your car? You're not. Yeah.
Completely agree. And I love the idea of the wife and child's face being jammed up against the side window, because
we've all done it.
And kids have it too plush these days. These kids growing up in, perfectly 68-degree temperature in every car that they ever ride in, only knowing the feeling of plush leather under their bum. Like when I grew up, I was sitting backwards half the time. Yeah, sitting backwards.
Sticky vinyl.
In the trunk, not even on the vinyl. Like usually my older brothers had the priority seat. So I was in the back, looking out the back window, getting car sick, or in the back of a pickup truck, getting rattled around with no seat at all. I went through some real trauma growing up. And I feel like kids these days, even if you're driving the Range Rover, jam their face against the window and jam a board into their back just so they have to feel that level of discomfort.
Make it a little hot in there. Make them like rub up against melted wax and get melted wax all over their arm.
For sure.
All kinds of good lessons to be taught. Yeah.
It's good for them. They'll be better because of it.
I mean, When was the last time you strapped a board to the roof of the car, or when was the last time you strapped a board without a bag or anything, like just a naked board?
Never.
Yeah, I don't think I may have never done that in my life. I must have at some point, but I cannot recall a time that I've done what we preached so loudly about, the fins forward, upside down.
I have a 12-foot Dave Parmenter like paddle surf vehicle. And so that goes bare on the roof because I don't have a board bag that's 12 feet long. But yeah, the only time I would put a board on the top of a car is usually on a surf trip where it's already in the bag. And so it's just too bulky and it makes sense to go on the roof. But I would never do it without the bag, and I would never go to the beach with the bag. So
yeah.
know.
When you go to the board roof transfer is only to get from hotel or house to airport. That's the only time. Otherwise, boards are in the car.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Amen. Well,
I'm glad.
Thanks, Surf Ads, for setting us straight.
I know. I'm glad we solved that PSA for everybody too.
Yeah.
So somebody saw a Valpocalypse Now sticker on the nose of a surfboard in a local lineup.
So awesome. Like the only extra, tell the story first. Or that's the story,
it.
Guess, right?
The listener DM'd me and was like, dude, you're not going to believe this. I was going surfing the other day and there was a guy and he said he was going to try to get a photo of it. So I don't know if he sees that guy regularly or whatever, but I'm putting this call out right now. We need this person to identify themselves. Call into the listener line. Tell us what compelled you to put the Valpocalypse Now sticker on the nose of your board. And more importantly, has anybody saluted you? Has anybody who has seen that saluted you?
I love it so much. Like that made me so happy. You got to think the guy doesn't have to rip at all, but you have to think he's a serviceable surfer too, right?
Who knows?
He's got to be. Nobody's throwing. If he's not, it's maybe even better. If he is part of the Valpocalypse and he's just announcing Valpocalypse Now while crushing through the lineup, good on him. But also, even better, if he is like sort of semi-ripping, spraying Vals in the face with his sponsored by Valpocalypse Now.
Well, he's taking your advice because in Barrel or Nah a couple months ago, I asked you putting stickers on your surfboard and you were into it.
Yes, sticker it up.
He was just following your advice, whether he's a good surfer or not. Gone are the days where only the good surfers put stickers on their board.
No, we're back. Everything comes back again, right? True religion jeans are back now as a fashion statement. So is sticking up your board. It's time. Right. True religion is like for the young 20 set is like the hot new pant.
I didn't know that it was ever really that fashionable. I didn't know that it went out of fashion. With the big
stitching and whatnot. Yeah.
No way.
Weird. Yeah.
What about Jenko?
Weird days we're living in. I think that's coming too. I think that's
you could set the trend by wearing those.
I don't even think you're set. I think there is kids wearing Jenko.
All right. Sweet. I will not jump on that.
Weird days.
Yeah,
nope.
So listener, call in, identify yourself. I've got an idea that I need your feedback on, Chaz, but I have a feeling that listeners are going to really give us the solution to this one. How do we get a Valpocalypse Now sticker on the nose of Jonah Hill's soft top?
Well, okay. So here's the thing. I forgot about this. I should have reached out earlier. I didn't know if it was a joke or not. It seemed real. A listener DM'd me and said, funny that you were talking about Jonah Hill's pop-up. I am Jonah Hill's surf coach. And so I was thinking, this seems too fishy. It seems too good to be true. But he did send me a video of his pop-up technique, which, unless he made it after the fact as a joke, was Jonah Hill's pop-up. And with like legit, weight, displacement, balance, like why it was a practical way to get up, et cetera, et cetera. So he sent it to me. So
he sent it to me as well.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And the video,
is it a joke?
I think it's a joke, but it's bizarre because the video was actually published like months ago. Yeah, months or years ago.
Exactly. And it seemed legit.
I think it's a joke. I think he's going for a joke in the way that like Raglan Surf Report plays serious, but obviously it's a joke because there's no way that technique is awful. Like there's no He was
I'm
trying
really-
hard to give like scientific explanation for why this is the right way to distribute your feet, but it's awful.
We gotta have him on no matter what, joke or not. But if I want to hold out hope that we have access now to Jonah Hill's surf coach. I mean,
and do
I
you
want
think
to
Jonah
hold.
Hill would even hire a surf coach? Is the other thing.
I think for sure. I think Jonah Hill would be like, I want to learn to surf. What am I doing wrong? And his buddies in Malibu would be like, oh, we got this guy. This guy helps us out.
Well,
like,
he'll
sort you out.
The other thing that makes me think it was a joke was the quote surf coach was doing the exercise in the video in his backyard on a Jerry Lopez soft top, wearing like either a wetsuit with board shorts over it, and then like New Balance sneakers on his feet.
Yeah. I really hope it's not a joke though. I really, really, really am holding out every hope that, this is the guy. This is our way in. But
all right. So
we'll
we
still
can
find
get
another
him,
way into Jonah Hill.
So
Yeah.
we can get him to put the sticker on.
If he's teaching Jonah Hill, Valpocalypse Now straight on Jonah Hill's 88 board. Or we can get stinking Jack Coleman to do it.
I don't know if Jack was just on the beach and he got that footage, or if he's actually hanging with Jonah.
I mean, if Jack's involved in 88 and Jonah's surfing 88, then to me it feels like we're getting closer. We're getting closer to Jonah Hill. But dear listeners, don't worry. David Lee and I will not rest until Jonah Hill is on the show.
A la Project Abelli. The way that we got the people sticker on Kyle Abelli's board, this is round 2. But I really don't think it's up to you and I. I think a listener will devise a plan for us, just like they did with Project Abelli. And so that's really what I'm relying on. They're going to be like, hey, let's do a blitz campaign, or better yet, let's kind of create some trend around putting this sticker on the nose of your board so that it happens organically and Jonah sees it and he's into surf culture and he just wants to be a part of surf culture. So he then reaches out to us for the stickers, and then we have to,
and then Jonah Hill's on the show and we're talking about the Valpocalypse. Beautiful. It'd be a beautiful moment.
The patron saint of the Vals rocking the Valpocalypse Now sticker.
Perfect. We'll even spell his name right in the press release.
So another listener chimed in and said, hey, I enjoyed the last episode of The Grit. Obviously, never let the truth get in the way of a good story, but might I offer a more plausible explanation for Chaz's encounter in Italy, helping Italy win whatever match that was. So here's his explanation. 3 strangers arrive on a yacht on a small town on the island in the south of Italy. One of them, or possibly more, is blonde, slightly rough around the edges, yet expensively dressed with Gucci shoes and somehow sunglasses, even though it's dark. You see where I'm going with this? Then the aperitifs arrive. No Aperol spritz for these characters. They only drink vodka, but not Smirnoff either. It's not hard to imagine the calculus that ran through the manager's brain as he looked Chaz up and down. Everyone in the whole place, including any of the local hoods, is going to be obliterated within a few hours. And if Italy loses, these ruffians could expedite things going south. So keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. Hence all the wait staff surrounding the table by the time the end of the game was in sight. Cheers, Toby from Portugal.
Toby, love you. Could have been. There was a woman who walked past who really glared, like hissed when England was up 1-0. You're British our way. But I said, no, but yeah, maybe Toby's right.
They were worried that you were going to start flipping tables and all that sort of stuff. So they just thought, let's overindulge them in the love of Italy so that they start rooting for our team.
No, maybe it could have been that we were being fattened for the slaughter. If Italy lost, then the waitstaff would have served up to the crowd to be carried out on pyres and like beaten on the beach and stuff as totems for England.
All of this is possible.
Could have been that. We were being fattened up.
All of this is more likely than you guys influencing the outcome of the game through hokum.
Well, so here's the thing though. Are you ready for the thing, David Lee?
Yeah.
I've done this twice now. Olympic skateboarding. I told you I went to a little restaurant here, the Union in Encinitas. Couldn't find or didn't have whatever USA and didn't care to get it. So I went down, watched the prelims. Cersei Wallace, the wife, had Jagger Eaton in the draw, who was injured and not expected. You know, supposed to be Nyjah Houston for the gold, or Nyjah fighting with, they have a fantastic Yuto, Japanese skater. Jagger wasn't really supposed to be in the conversation. I knew, though, if I stayed put, rain even started falling, David Lee Scales. I sat there for like 4 hours getting rained on, not moving from my seat, and Stinking Jag won bronze. Did it, man.
What?
Again.
Crazy.
Yep.
He wasn't even supposed to be there.
Nope, wasn't supposed to be there. Was there, won bronze.
Incredible.
Wasn't supposed to win. Yep, so that's twice now. That is twice in a row.
Pretty good
Just
record.
saying. Yeah.
We should really aim your powers at something that'll benefit us.
I mean, I was thinking, we should just start betting next time. I should get the feeling, go to a restaurant, sit for hours and hours.
Yeah.
Decadently and win.
I had an epiphany earlier this week that I too am influencing the outcome, but in a little bit more direct ways, not as cosmic, in that whoever I talk crap about ends up defying my expectation. And I really think that it's me talking crap, you know, who I'm trying to think of an example here, but like going into the Olympics, whatever.
Were you crap talking Kanoa?
No, I believed in Kanoa going into it, but I will set a lot of argument for why somebody will fail at something. And then they show up, Morgan Sibilic beating John 2 times in a row, you know, and it's like, oh crap, he elevated his game.
Yeah.
Maybe he heard the sound of my voice. Maybe it compelled him to hit the gym slightly harder and really prove me wrong. That's what
it very well could be. And or your negativity flowing through the universe. He just sensed it, right? He knew, wait, there's somebody out there who doesn't believe. Well, I'll show them. Yeah.
This is why I think Kelly Slater is still on tour, because for years I've been saying, this guy, he just keeps losing heats. Why don't you go out with some dignity? Hang your head high. You don't want to just get beaten down by 20-year-old kids repeatedly over and over until you're sitting in 25th and your bones are breaking. Like,
that's what's happening right now.
Exactly. And he's trying to defy my argument.
And you know what I think is properly, truly going to happen, which maybe I'm going to have to go sit with another drink in the rain to make this happen.
Yes.
Kelly Slater wins Chopu. You heard it here first. Pumping Chopu. Slater so furious at the Olympic snub, so mad at the way things have turned for him that he is really no longer part of the conversation. Let's be honest. I mean, he can show up, his name can appear, but his voice won't appear anymore. Nobody even really cares, right? Like, game over. He's going to go win Chopu to get back in the conversation. Oldest man ever to do it, blah, blah, blah.
And he very well can, by the way. Even though I just talk crap, if the waves are good, Kelly is the man to beat. And that applies at Cloudbreak, Chopu, Pipeline, maybe even Barra.
I think Barra is going to be
J-Bay.
I was really making the case, or tried to make the case on Beach Grit, that the shade Kelly is going to throw on the Olympians is by taking his 12th world title. And Carl von Fonningstad of Beach Grit fame, I said if Kelly gets quarters in both, he's got it. If he gets quarters at Chopu and quarters at Barra, he's in. And Dear KVF corrected my math and said, absolutely not. Kelly's so far back right now. Kelly would have to win one of them, and I think semifinal the other one. But
yeah, I think Kelly's still in like 25th right now.
25th, yeah. But still not. I'm going to go Kelly for the win in Chopu.
It's possible. If the waves are good, he's the guy.
The waves are good. If the waves are good. If the waves are not good, no win.
There was a number of years where that he was losing, that I really felt he was the man to beat in good waves. But to be honest, now he would have a really tough draw against Gabriel Medina, Idolo, Jack Robinson, John Florence if John could.
Even Michelle Borez at Chopes. I mean, I ain't a fan of Michelle Borez, but Michelle Borez got that little tube in Tokyo. Got ripped off on his tube.
I couldn't believe how well. So yeah, let's do Tokyo.
What do you think of the scoring first?
I thought the scoring was spot on.
Really? The whole time?
Yeah.
I thought there were some weird
Yeah.
moves.
There was, I mean, the Kanoa and Gabriel Medina heat could have,
Mhm.
it was real close and it could have gone either way, you know, but I thought
What about J-Dub v Gabe?
so
J-Dub felt ripped off.
the way that the ISA or the IOC, whoever it is, justified that. So for the listeners, Gabriel Medina surfed a wave outside of the contest zone, and that was the wave that he got his score on. And so Julian Wilson's camp actually filed a formal petition trying to get them to reconsider that or whatever, or reverse the call. And the way that they argued it, the way that the ISA argued it was, you're allowed to surf outside. I guess in the rules, you are allowed to surf outside of the contest zone, but you're not guaranteed that the judges will see that wave. So they put up those boundary lines advising this is the only part that you're guaranteed to be scored on. And it happened that Gabriel surfed outside of it, and it happened that they saw it and they did give it a score. And so he beat Julian. And I'm totally fine with that. I think it's a 2-man heat, so they can kind of track everything that's going on. I think they put those rules in place in consideration of 4-man heats, or when there was 6-man heats back then. It's really hard to track everybody. But if it's a 2-man heat, they could see everything.
No
and
problem.
They had the benefit of replays too.
To be honest, I doffed my cap to the ISA for that. It was like a clear, concise ruling that made perfect sense, was totally reasonable. And crap waves notwithstanding, I like the format of the Olympics better than I like a WSL. I like the 4-man. I like the 4-man leading up to the quarters. And then, I mean, the whole thing was more enjoyable to watch, other than the waves being not fun to watch.
The two key things, and by the way, in regard to the waves, the only reason I'm enthusiastic about the surf was that my expectations were so low. I thought that it was going to be flat.
I wonder if, though, in terms of Olympics or surfing selling itself broadly, I think it so needs I believe, this ideal vision of surfing. It needs blue water and palm tree swing and that brown mess, which thankfully I would hope will turn off more people from surfing than it will turn on, where they think, ooh, yuck, this is surfing. Not only does that not look fun, that looks like anti-fun. I want nothing to do with that. I thought about it, and where if it would have been all pristine and warm and gorgeous, people would have said, I'm going to go to the beach today.
See, I think we were misinterpreting what the Olympics would do for surfing, because I don't think that people watch that and then think, oh, I'm going to go surfing now. But I think that they then become fans of surfing potentially. In the way that
Greg Louganis and tried to go dive.
Really?
I think totally. You never watched an Olympic sport and then go out and try to do it?
No, I watch swimming, and Michael Phelps becomes this superstar. So then I become more aware of swimming and I have a better appreciation for swimming. But I never thought, okay, I'm going to go start swimming and try to beat my best time or anything like that.
Really? You never went down to the local pool? You never went down to the local pool and started throwing laps down?
No.
Oh, man.
Maybe that's the difference being a kid and an adult. So maybe the Greg Louganis thing was when you were a kid, you know?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, maybe for sure. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think the way the water looked, I mean, it looked disgusting.
Yeah.
It was an absolute indecipherable mess. And especially, again, compared to the skateboarding, which typically I don't like to watch skateboarding, but I loved every second of the skate. And I watched surfing and thought, oh, this is torture. Unless you're the most ardent surf fan, this is hard to watch.
Yeah. I think Idolo's backside air, Gabriel's backside air, Kanoa's frontside air, those things are so spectacular that if they just play that for the masses, anybody can be wowed by that.
Yeah.
But not as much as they will be in 2024 when people are scraping into Chopu barrels, you know, and it is crystal and blue and all that.
2024 is going to be surfing's real coming out party, I think. And then we'll actually see what Olympics can do or doesn't do for surfing. Like if there's no big bounce off Chopu, then a big bounce is not possible.
That'll steal the show from all of the other Olympic sports. There is nothing in Olympics more spectacular than that.
I mean, people are going to absolutely love it. I hope NBC, I've heard from an inside source that NBC was very, very disappointed with viewership numbers for surfing.
Really?
Yeah, that they did not get the numbers, did not even come close to the numbers that they were hoping for, which doesn't make any sense to me, seeing as they made it as impossible as they could to find. This is only in America, by the way. Made it as impossible as they could to find, and who wants to watch it anything after the fact? Like,
yeah,
when you throw it on tape delay in primetime, where I don't even know where they had it the couple days later. Everybody, any surf fan already knows and is not going to go watch again. Any non-surf fan who stumbles upon that will be like, "What? This is ugly. This is gross."
Yeah. Regarding the contest format, by the way, Instagram's blowing up. I keep looking down at my phone. Devin Howard posted a photo of him picking up a longboard, a Wayne Rich longboard off the beach. And his caption said something like, do over, try again or something. Like, he's all wet. He obviously lost his board in the lineup and he's picking it up off the beach. And I just left a comment saying, if you're going to fall, you should be wearing a leash, just as a joke. And people are lighting me up. Some guy's like, are you on crack? Somebody else says, zero respect from the unexperienced.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. I'm going to get in there and really dress him down too. Like,
roast
unsafe.
me.
Unsafe.
Oh, okay. Okay. Perfect. Hilarious. Anyways, the format. Yes. Fewer surfers was the key. The fact that there was just, and I think there was 20 surfers, but honestly, a few got washed out in the first day. So it really came down to like 8 or 10 surfers.
How great was that? They finished the whole event in the exact amount of time that an event should be finished in. It was like three days, right? And not even 3
full days.
Yeah, 3 short days, which how in the world does the World Surf League not look at that and say, yeah, this is a better format?
Well, it all from the viewing experience, you can track 8 or 10 stories. It's like, these are the 8 or 10 guys. Here's their story, and girls. Here are the storylines. And I can follow it. I can appreciate it. I can invest in it. And then furthermore, the other big fix that I never even realized we needed was making the bronze medalists fight it out. Like, the 2 losers from the semifinal round fight it out for the bronze medal. So I don't know why up until this point, we've just accepted that we can have an equal third place finisher and equal fourth place finishers. There is a better surfer between those two. There is a better surfer in every event. Why would we not figure out who that surfer is? And at the beginning of the event, we have all of these redundant rounds where people, do fight it out for 28th versus 32nd or whatever it is. We don't give a crap about those people. We don't care what the difference is at that end of the spectrum. Save that extra time and use it at the end of the event where we get to decide who's number 3 and who's number 4.
It really, 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 when you think about it, it's like the WSL format compared to that is asinine. We're getting fun. Yeah. Like the Owen Wright heat, even though I didn't watch it, was as fun to read about as the other ones, right? Like, there was as much on the line there for third as there was for gold and silver, in terms of huge interest, in terms of everything, right? Like, where you realize sort of the color of the medal doesn't matter as much as in, like, surfing, I think, as, the winner of that battle. Like, yes, Elo winning gold was important and Kanoa winning silver was fine, or important, but Owen Wright winning bronze was important. To me, they were all equally important. They were, and all battles that were fun to watch.
Medaling is hugely important.
Yeah.
So bronze versus no medal at all, because no medal at all by 1 margin or no medal at all by 4 margins is almost
no medal at all.
There.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the 4th place is forgotten forever. 3rd place in the history books, man.
Yeah. And speaking of history books, congratulations to Carissa Marks, Italo Medina, Kaloe Igarashi, and all the others.
All of them. history was made, except for Kolohe Igarashi. He didn't make very much history. I was really pulling for Kolohe. And yeah, when he beat John, I thought, here we go. Kolohe is going to catch a breath of wind that's going to push him to the finals. And we're going to get an exciting showdown. Brazil via America is what I thought. I was
feeling patriotic, but let's be honest. He's not as good of a surfer as Idolo and Gabe and the other surfers.
The problem is, what do you do at this point? If you're Kolohe Andino and you have tried, like bashing up against this Brazilian wall, this Brazilian storm, as it were, for any of them, what do you do? Like, everybody's going to be competing now. I mean, Australia's got literally no one left in the show. I mean, Sibyllic is fine, but Sibyllic won't be at any level to even halfway compete with Brazil. And I bet Brazil has a bunch of people coming up too that we don't even know of.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, Brazil is going to be a dominant force for decades. Funny enough, I think the 5-man final at lowers, a Brazil contingent is real mad about that, which I never put those 2 and 2 together. That I guess people in Brazil, or some people, a portion of Brazil's population, takes the 5-man final as a way to try to make sure that there's not a Brazilian champion, which thinking about it that way sort of makes sense. When you're thinking, okay, if we just get them all there together, somebody can have a Hail Mary, right? Like some non-Brazilian can maybe take it out.
There's a lot of reasons that the WSL structured that finals day the way they did, and none of them are related to race relations.
For sure, but in terms of the best surfers in the world, I mean, it's going to come out no matter what. Gabriel Medina, Idolo, and what? I mean, 3 of the top 5 arguably will be Brazil.
Maybe Felipe will be there. The one problem with the format is if Griffin Colapinto gets the 5th spot, and because lowers is his home break, he outsurfs everybody on that one day. And even though he's got way fewer points than Gabriel throughout the rest of the season, and Gabriel's clearly the better surfer of the year, that would be a problem if Griffin won.
Of course, but watching, funny enough, a takeaway from the Olympics as it relates to lowers, even more, I guess, importantly, Gabriel could have a huge lead over Idolo, and Idolo has shown time and time again that he can smash Gabe.
Yeah.
And so that wouldn't be as black eye-ish for the WSL, but it actually would be worse, I think, when you got a guy who didn't beat Gabe over the course of the year, but can definitely beat Gabe head to head, right?
Yeah.
Because over the course of a year is something, right? Like Gabriel, the heats you surf, the way you surf them, who you beat, which contests you win, et cetera, that whole narrative is something. If Gabriel is like 10,000 points ahead of Idolo, and Idolo beats him, that's going to be pretty unchill.
He beats him when it matters.
But Idolo will always beat Gabe. I have a feeling that Idolo will beat Gabe head to head every time now.
Well, maybe now, but I can't remember all of the stats from the year, but Gabriel did beat Idolo in a semifinal or a quarterfinal heat at Pipeline this year. He beat him in a final in Australia this year. I think.
Okay, so I take it back.
He lost the other final against Idolo. I think it's kind of been tit for tat, but Idolo does it when it matters. Idolo did it last year or 2019 at Pipe in the final. He did it at the Olympics.
Yeah.
So I have a repairman coming in 10 minutes. Let's go to commercial and then come back with Barrel or Not.
Sweet.
All right, Chaz, we're back. Barrel or Not.
Good to be back. Let's hit it.
This first Barrel or Not comes from Peter in La Jolla on the listener line. I'm going to press play.
David and Chaz, this is Peter from La Jolla Shores, California, and I'm getting ready to celebrate my 28th birthday, which means that it's been 28 years since Endless Summer 2 was released. That just happens to be the same amount of time in between Endless Summer 2 and Endless Summer 1. So I ask you guys, Barrel or Nah, Endless Summer 3 in 2022. Cheers.
All right, Chaz. Peter in La Jolla, Endless Summer 3, Barrel or Nah?
I am total barrel on Endless Summer 3. I traveled many hundreds of miles when Endless Summer 2 came out to go see it in the theater. I was so excited about it. So Endless Summer 3, I'm barrel for, even though Endless Summer 2 was, I think, kind of not the movie that Endless Summer 1 was. Once you go 2, make 3. You got to bang out a trilogy. Question is, who is the Pato, who is the Wingnut, or who is the I'm blanking on the originals names.
Robert August.
Hinson and August. Yeah. Like, so they went longboarder and shortboarder for 2. Like, what do you do for 3? Do you just you get rid of that
cast.
entirely? Oh, brilliant idea. How are they not doing this?
Jody Prendergast, Cassia Mador, Kalia Moniz, Sierra Kerr, Bianca Batendog.
But I'm going to say you pick 2. You've got to pick 2.
Yeah. I'm just, those are the names I'm throwing out that you pick from.
Okay, Sierra's a little too young, even though she'd be great to watch.
Steph Gilmore.
Okay, perfect. It is Steph Gilmore and who? We need a dark haired. The whole point.
Kalia Moniz.
Okay, so it's Steph and Kalia. We've just cast it.
I love it. Could be Bethany Hamilton could take the role of Steph, like if you for the blondie, or I love Bianca Batendog. Like South African, she has chops, obviously. She knows how to surf. She kind of disappeared out of the limelight. She's reemerged through the Olympics. This could be a huge opportunity for her.
Do you have an in to, what's the deal? I'm sure I do. I'm sure I can figure it out. To,
Dana?
What's the name's son? Yeah, Dana?
No, I mean, not directly, but yeah, I could get a connection with him.
Let's literally pitch Endless Summer 3.
I love it.
We've got it. It'll be... And we can have it be a listener sourced narrative and stuff. Like we're what should vision of for this time.
Agreed.
Love it.
It writes itself almost.
Barrel.
Huge
barrel. Yeah.
Huge barrel. Cannot wait. We want to go like the Fast and the Furious franchise. We need 10 of these.
Yep. But
every
10 of them
years.
Every 22 years.
Barrel or nah, playing cornhole.
I'm gonna go no barrel. Cornhole, I like if it's sitting there, I'll pick it up, I'll throw the beanbag. If somebody wants to get competitive, happy to get competitive. But I always feel bad about myself after. I feel like I just did something stupid. I did something stupid and looked stupid doing it.
This comes off the heels of 4th of July. It's why I had it in my notes. But my whole hiccup with cornhole is the name.
Cornhole.
I don't want name. Well, it's when my family's around. And it's like, I don't want to be talking to my family about playing cornhole with my parents. You know what I mean? And holding beanbags. There's just way too much sexual innuendo for a family game.
There's got to be a PG name for cornhole that kids who aren't allowed to say cornhole but like the game. What do they call it? They call it beanbag toss. Do they call it?
But beanbag has also got weird connotations, so it's got to be something else. I just feel like the rise to popularity for that game was because it's called cornhole and a bunch of drunk frat boys want to say the name, but then the kind of limitation of it to really gain full like worldwide Olympic status maybe is that it's called cornhole. The Olympics cannot include it because it's called cornhole.
The other thing about it, though, is speaking of jamming your kid's face to the window with your surfboard, bringing some pain back. Whatever happened to stinking horseshoes? Metal horseshoes thrown to a metal pole that inevitably someone would always trip on the horseshoe pole. Remember, if you had a horseshoe set up, somebody would be walking across the yard and catch their shin on the top edge of the metal pole and just cut it right open. Heavy metal flying through the air, clanking and whatnot. Horseshoes is so much superior to cornhole that it's, proper name, horseshoe. Nothing weird about that.
Nope. There was no need to replace it. There was no need to replace it.
Bring back
horseshoe.
Yeah.
That could be an Olympic sport for sure.
I'm down with that.
It's freaking way harder too. Like if you're actually good at horseshoes, it means something. If you're good at cornhole, it means you got more drunk than everybody else and got lucky.
Totally. Dumb.
So on cornhole, barrel on horseshoe.
Big barrel on a horseshoe.
Final barrel or not for today, for this week. Returning the shopping cart.
Ooh, no barrel. I think one of the greatest jobs this country, this world has to offer is the shopping cart picker-upper. The dude who gets to have his ear pods in, wander outside while the birds are chirping, sun is shining, gathering carts. If you return your job or your cart, you strip that boy of his job. Let that boy work. Leave your cart be. Push it anywhere. Push it into another cart.
That's what I was going to say. I'd say do him a favor and walk it to the end of the parking lot so that he has more time outside.
I mean, do you not look with envy in your eye after you go to Target? Got to get places busy, harried, life like falling apart at the seams, and you see that boy just wandering slowly. Maybe he's got that electric thing that like gathers him up and drives itself. It's just not even exerting energy. Imagine the amount of breaks you could take if you're that kid. You go here behind the bank 20 minutes, sit there twiddling your thumbs. Who's going to be looking for you? Kid's out picking up carts. Where's he supposed to be?
He definitely pads that part of his job. Like it takes double the amount of time that it ever should because he's just milking it. But if you are an employee at Target, the worst part of that job is interacting with customers. Like people are rude, people are dumb, and so you're dealing with that constantly. So yes, outdoor, out of the fluorescent lights, in fresh air, with your ear pods, listening to the grit, like that is the dream.
Wandering around, literally, and we as a society need to protect that job. So do not return your cart. This is a PSA. Please save that boy's job. Do not
push the cart to the edge to where the wheels lock up because people try to steal them, and leave it there wheels locked because that'll create more effort for them to pull it back into the zone.
Put it up on, if there's one of those like tree planters, put two of the wheels up there, but really dig them into the dirt where kid's going to have to like lift it, do a little curl to lift it off and back it into the rest of the carts.
You're welcome, America.
If you're going to return it to a cart, if you feel the need, return it to the stall at the far end and push it in there backwards.
Agreed.
Make him go in and flip it around. Anything to make that kid have 5 more minutes outside.
Agreed.
It's our duty.
Even if he doesn't appreciate it, we're doing him a favor. This is,
oh my goodness,
this is what he needs other than playing video games on the internet. He doesn't know
protecting his way of life. We're doing him a huge solid. Yeah.
Agreed. Building his character. You are welcome, America. You are welcome, Target employees.
Yep. All of them.
All right, Chaz, will you be back in Southern California next Thursday?
I sure will be. I'll be back, I think, on Wednesday. So
we'll reconvene an album.
Yes.
Right in time for the start of Mexico as well. Right about.
And we also need to properly, next week, I promise to viewers, we will have our watch party location and time set for the Ultimate Surfer. It'll be San Clemente. It'll be Monday night at 10 p.m. I was thinking how hard that's going to be to find a restaurant or place or bar open on Monday night at 10 p.m. But we will make it happen. Yeah.
Good call.
If any San Clemente business wants to host an establishment, drinking, dining, reach out.
Perfect.
DMs, just like Jonah Hill's coach.
We'll get a seedy hotel room and we'll do a party.
Oh, that's exactly what we're going to do. Epic.
All right, Chaz, have a good trip. Good to see you. Until next week.
Get barrel.